Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Jay, and this video is going to be another monthly pickups video where I take you through the various games and nerdy video game stuff that I've added to my collection over the month of September. But quite a few to get through. This one might be a bit longer than normal. You'll already know that because you'll have seen the timestamp. I don't yet, as I'm only just starting the recording. But let's jump in and let me share with you some of the cool stuff that I've picked up this month. So I'm going to start the video off with, and we're going to go in kind of reverse chronological order through a couple of different consoles. I've picked up quite a variety of stuff here. I'm also going to explain a little bit about why some of these things have been picked up, because I have mentioned in the past that my collecting habits are a little bit random, a little bit sporadic, and I wanted to try and focus them a little bit. So in order to do that, I have been looking around for some reliable sources for kind of top 20, top 25 video game lists. I found a website called Culture Vulture, I think it was, or Cultured Vulture, I can't remember. I'll pop a link to it in the comments below. But that website had a number of articles that had been curated which ranked sort of top 20 games on various consoles over the years. So it's not necessarily the definitive list, and I'm sure there's lots of games in there that people would say that doesn't make sense, or why isn't X game on that list. But I've used that as a basis to start off with, and I'm going to have a think about how I can share those different lists with you over the coming months. But what I've started to do is to capture those lists, work out what games I've already got, and then basically start to look at focusing on picking up the games to flesh those lists out, so that for each console that I own, I end up with this position where I've got theoretically 20 of the best games for each console. Now I will say some of those consoles had duplicate games in, so you might have seen a Splinter Cell game on the PS2 that was also on the Xbox, and similar with GameCube on some of the games that crossed over there. I don't think I want to be collecting multiple versions of those games unless I've already got multiple versions for other reasons. So what I might look to do is take your steer as a community to tell me what you think should replace those games on those lists. So when we come to share those lists more broadly, I'll take you through some of those duplicates and get your thoughts. There's also a few sports titles on some of those consoles, perhaps because they had weaker lineups in general, or those particular sports titles were just, mind-blowingly good. I don't really want to collect old sports titles. It's not really something that I want in my collection. So again, I'll probably look to substitute those for something different. So let's get into the actual games and let me show you some of the first few things that I've picked up. I've got predominantly games here, but towards the end I will throw in a few things that are game adjacent and explain why they're important to me as well. I've got some cool stuff right at the end, so do stick with the video and see it through. So let's start off with two Xbox One pickups. I have played and completed both these games before. I have them digitally, but I wanted to own them as part of my set, which is the two Tomb Raider titles, which is, let me get the names right, Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider. So I already played the first Tomb Raider game, and I own it back on the 360. I had the collector's edition, and I've got the figure somewhere. But I never bought these physically, I just played them digitally. But I wanted to add them to the collection. I've been buying up some of the Tomb Raider titles over the years, and these are some of the best ones, to be perfectly honest, and some of the omissions. I must admit, I think Rise of the Tomb Raider, if I get them in the right order, was the second one. Really enjoyed that. By the time I got to Shadow, I was starting to get a little bit bored of the system, and I didn't find this one quite as enjoyable, but that might just have been me and my tastes. So two Tomb Raider games. They're the most modern that I've added to the collection, and everything else now is going to go backwards in time and get a bit more retro. So the next game is an Xbox 360 game. We'll stick with the Xbox, and this is a recommendation from a friend. I'd never played this or really heard of it, so let me know in the comments if this was a good recommendation or if I've been sold a dud. I picked it up from CEX, and that is Lost Odyssey. Now this is apparently going to be a hefty game, so the chances are I will probably never finish this. And judging by the state of the discs in here, I think the only disc that ever got into a console was the first disc. It's a 4-disc game, so it's a beast. But apparently it's a very good game, a very good sort of JRPG style game on the 360. There weren't that many on that console, so looking forward to giving that a go. Let me know in the comments if this is a good one. Sticking with 360, and now and a couple of games that are on the list of sort of top 20s. I'll try and call them out when I remember them, because not all of these are. And that is Street Fighter 4. Now, I must admit, when I was collating these lists, Street Fighter comes up a lot. Probably unsurprisingly, but I kind of dropped off Street Fighter back in the SNES days. I loved it back in the day. Played the to death on the SNES. Never really got into it in later consoles. I think I might have had a PS2 one once upon a time. But But apparently Street Fighter 4 is very good. I have had a quick blast just to test it, as I do all my games, and it played well. It was good fun. So something that I might look to give some more time to. For me, these games are always best enjoyed with friends. A bit of couch co-op. I'm not really into playing through not the campaigns, but you know what I mean, the arcade mode and sort of playing it on my own. But Street Fighter 4 added to the list, and it's one off the top 20 list for the Xbox 360. Now, the next one in my list, I actually have bought both versions of, or the first and the second one, but we'll start with the second one because we are working backwards, and that's Mercenaries 2, specifically World in Flames. This is another one that I'm pretty confident I played this version back in the day, but I can't remember if I played the original or the sequel, or both. My memory's not great. My memories of Mercenaries was on the 360, but I've also bought, as you'll see later on, spoiler alert, the PS2 version of the original Mercenaries. But I bought this, it's just a fun open world kind of shooting, blow things up, vehicle combat, helicopters, tanks and all that jazz. I remember it being quite a lot of fun. So I picked that one up. It's just something that I can pop into the 360 and play very casually. I love the 360 for these kind of games. I have really fond memories of the 360, so it's nice to add some more to that collection. Sticking with the 360, and I think one off the top 20 list, and a game I've never played, don't judge me, fake gamer alert and all that, is Fallout New Vegas. Never been into the Fallout games, I have to be very honest. They never really resonated with me, or to be honest, I never really tried them. I'm always off put when they're kind of crazy long games, but I heard this is one of the better in the series anyway, if not the best. So Fallout New Vegas, one that I'm looking forward to try, and as I said, one that I have also subsequently ticked off the top 20 Xbox 360 titles list. This is a game then that I played back in the day. I don't think I ever truly finished it, but I thoroughly enjoyed what I did play of it, and that is Enslaved Odyssey to the West. Now, I think, if I'm right, Andy Serkis plays a big part in this. I think, yeah, he co-directs it, but I think he also voices one of the characters and did some of the mocap for it from memory. So, an interesting game, and I think at the time that's why I bought it, to be perfectly honest. But I really enjoyed it. It's just looking at the description here, it's a post-apocalyptic landscape. You play as Monkey, a strong, brutish loner who must work with a tech-savvy partner, Trip, to traverse that landscape and survive a perilous journey home. So I remember it being quite an interesting game. There'd been some interesting story to it, and that's one I'm very happy to add to the collection. Can't remember if that's in the top 20. I don't think it is. But if I'm wrong, then we'll correct that at some point in the future. Final two 360 games were definitely top 20 pickups. Again, two that, one I never played, and one I think I might have only dabbled with, but I'll explain why. The first of those is Dead Space. Now, I know this has had a remake, and I've really wrestled with this as well, about whether or not to buy the kind of original games where a game has been remastered or brought to a more modern console. Do I want to buy and play it on the original console, or do I want to buy and play it on the newer consoles? This was literally, I think, £1.50 in CEX, so I thought, well, it's not going to hurt to add it to the top 20, but I do know there's a remaster, so if I was going to dive in, I'd probably pick the remaster. But let me know if that's the right, sensible kind of choice. But Dead Space, the original, and I think that's the best, or held up as the best. I think they got progressively worse in kind of the critics' eyes. But again, correct me if I'm wrong, I've never played them. I'm not normally one for kind of horror, jump scare games. And then the last 360 title, just to round out the 360 pickups, is Forza Horizon, the original. I definitely played this back in the day. Never really a big driving game fan, but I preferred the Horizon series to the mainline Forza because it kind of allowed for a little bit more adventure. Now this one does say it's better with the Kinect sensor. I don't think any games were truly better with the Kinect sensor, as much as I wanted to love the Kinect as a piece of technology, as a gaming device. It always fell a bit flat, didn't it? But yeah, so the original Forza Horizon, obviously the latter games are probably way better, but nice to have that, and it's one of the top 20 on that console, at least as far as that list is concerned. Stick with the Xbox then, I think, and we'll continue going back through the generations. So now we've got 4 pickups which were all on the original Xbox top 20 list. I think I've mentioned before on the channel, I didn't own an original Xbox. I didn't get into Xbox till the 360, which then became my mainline console and moved me away from being a PlayStation primary player. And then I've kind of gone back to PS5 now, but it took a few generations for me to lapse back to PlayStation. So the original Xbox, a lot of the titles passed me by. However, some of these titles I played on the PS2, so they're not kind of unfamiliar to me. The first one, though, is sticking with the previous titles theme, and that's the original Forza Motorsport. or Forza Motorsport, as I've said that horribly. I never played this. As I said, visually it looks impressive. It looks kind of on a par with Gran Turismo. I know that's what it was trying to compete with. Forza Motorsport on the original Xbox. And not much to say about that one, to be honest, other than it's a top 20 title. So I picked it up for that purpose, and really that purpose only. I'm really not probably going to put much time into this one. But again, it was like £1 or £2, something. Then a game series that I do love, and I played this on the PS2, but it's on the top 20 list for Xbox, so I picked it up there instead, which was Time Splitters Future Perfect. Now I played Time Splitters 2 more so, I think, than 3. I think by the time I got to 3, I was kind of like not bored of the sort of series, but I played it, the novelty had worn off, and I was moving on to new experiences. But I know I did own it. I'm not sure I ever finished this one, but I definitely completed Time Splitters 2 and started this one. But this is the one that appeared on most of the lists, and when I saw this in CEX again for, it was literally a couple of £, I thought I'll get it on the Xbox and we'll give that a go. Maybe a nice excuse to play on the original Xbox, although those controllers are a nightmare. Another one that I owned on the PS2, this one is Black. This is a really interesting one because at the time, I remember this being a weird pivot because this was from the makers of Burnout. And I remember thinking, how do you go from a high-speed racing game to, you know, a gritty first-person shooter? But also the big novelty factor, I think, with this back in the day was the destructive kind of environment. So I'll be trying to overlay some footage with this as we go. You'll probably see that now, but we probably take it for granted these days. But back then, you know, if you pummeled bullets into a wall, the wall didn't do anything. But in this game, if you pummeled bullets into the wall crumbled or the glass broke or whatever it might be. And I remember sort of fond memories of this feeling like I was, you know, in the Matrix lift sequence. You probably all remember that one if you're a Matrix fan, where, you know, bullets are flying in slow motion and tiles are falling off the wall, and just thinking how cool it was that I could now play that kind of experience out in a video game. So Black on the Xbox original, again, part of that top 20 list, which was really good to see. And then the last of my Xbox pickups is a game series that, again, I've never really played, which is Thief Deadly Shadows. So let me know down in the chat if I should be giving this one a go. Again, I've heard reasonably good things about this, and the fact that it's in the top 20 list suggests that it's probably a good game. I mean, it looks to me, without knowing anything, like a bit of a first-person Assassin's Creed, before Assassin's Creed was a thing. So let me know if that's fair or not. But yeah, top 20 again, super cheap. And a lot of these Xbox games were in really good condition when I picked them up, so I was really pleased. They probably came from someone's collection. Don't think they'd been there long, and I swooped in and kind of picked up quite a few. So that concludes our Microsoft journey. That is the biggest pile, by the way. So I just struck gold in CEX that particular day and picked up a whole load of 360 and original Xbox, very, very cheap. I then moved on to my PlayStation Total in general games, and I'll start with the PS3 and work backwards. And this one is a weird kind of reason for landing on this. This is not in a top 20 list, but I picked it up when I saw it. Again, it was really, really cheap. House of the Dead Overkill, the extended cut. Now, it wasn't that long ago that I did a retro quest on House of the Dead for the Wii, or Overkill on the Wii. I'd never played the series at the time, and that led me to, in the chat, to a number of people talking about the PlayStation Move and the PlayStation controller, sort of gun controller, which I then went and picked up. I bought the Time Crisis game and a couple of other titles for the PS3 and gave them a go. I think it works on Killzone as well, which was really cool. And then someone mentioned that this also existed on the PS3. So kind of funny that I've gone full circle and ended up picking this up as well. I figured that if I'm going to play this through properly, then it's probably best to play it on a kind of HD console with with the PlayStation Move controller. So looking forward to giving that a proper go. I've tested it but not played it properly. So yeah, a nice new kind of horror shooter for the collection. Then my other PS3 titles are both in the Little Big Planet universe. And I love that little series. I love Sackboy. Although I will say that the experience of putting these two titles in and testing them was an absolute ball ache, and I'll explain why. So let's just cover the games first. So the first one is Little Big Planet Racing, or karting. I figured I'd pick it up just for funsies. These things never hold up to Mario Kart in my eyes, but then I'm maybe a little biased towards the Nintendo childhood nostalgia. But pick this one up just to give it a go. I like the creativity of the Little Big Planet series, so I figured it could be good fun and something that maybe me and my kids would find a bit of a laugh one afternoon. And then the other title, before I talk about why testing them was a nightmare, is Little Big Planet 2. And again, I own the first one, played a lot on that one. I think I bought the Metal Gear Solid DLC at some point back in the day. Whether I can still access that now, I don't know. But Little Big Planet 2 was another one to add to the collection. Both are pretty cheap. Both, I think certainly Little Big Planet is on the top 20 list, but I'll have to double check whether it's Little Big Planet 2 or 3. But either way, pick those two up. The reason they were a ball ache to test is that when I put them in, and this is something that I've talked about with the PS3 before, compared to the Xbox 360 in its generation, there were something in the region of about 20 or 30 updates that needed to be installed for both games in order to play them, and it just took forever. And of course, it takes the console over while it's doing it. So I sat there and watched it slowly pull down 200-300 megabyte updates over and over again, downloading one, installing one, download the next, install the next, and it honestly took me like 40 minutes to get the updates downloaded per game, just to be able to run them and make sure they worked okay. So yeah, just a sort of reminder there of how bad the PS3 was at that point in terms of its updates, that kind of infrastructure. Over to the two PS2 games I picked up. I mentioned this one earlier on, Mercenaries on the PS2. Again, can't remember which of these two I played the most of, but picked up this one. It's interesting looking at the back of the box. The screenshots are way sort of grittier, kind of washed out, more of the era, whereas the 360 ones are a little bit more like Just Cause. They brought that vibrancy and the colour to the environments. Now that might have been a tech limitation, it might have been an art style choice. It's quite interesting to see the difference between the two titles. The Mercenaries on the PS2, and then this next game is not a top 20 by any stretch, and in fact it's probably pretty poor, but I remember it as a kid. I used to love the Resident Evil games, and there wasn't that many of them on the PS2 to get excited for. It's probably after Code Veronica, and I used to love the Dino Crisis series on PS1, so I was kind of craving that kind of tanky, horror-y sort of style game, and I picked up this one, which was Extermination, and I had that back in the day. The main reason I picked it up again is it was like £1.50. I don't intend to sit and put any real time into this. But look how cool the cover is. I don't know if that's coming across on camera. I'm just checking my own feed there. But it's got this kind of like foil holographic look. The box was actually quite beaten up when I bought it. So I was quite relieved when I gave it a good clean down that it's come back to life and that there's some, you can still see the brilliance of that kind of cover. But I just thought it was really cool and more of a visual piece than anything else. And again, I think it was like £1.50. So not going to lose any sleep over that. So that was my addition. And then there was one more game, which was actually, I think, comfortably the most expensive of the games that I've added to the collection. And it's probably more to do with the console that it's on than the quality of the game necessarily. But it is in the top 20 list for this console, and that is Resident Evil Code Veronica on the Dreamcast. I think I paid about £25 for this, which is about right based on kind of price charting. It's in very good condition. Obviously, these cases can be really easily damaged, quite brittle. I've already got this on the PS2, but because it's on the top 20 list and because the Dreamcast is a little bit light, for me, at least knowledge-wise, I thought, well, I'm going to stick with that list. I'll pick it up. It was in CEX and, like I said, in very good condition. Manual and everything is there. So that was my kind of most expensive and more obscure title, I guess, just in terms of consoles. And then we're on to the bits and pieces that are not necessarily games, but game adjacent. So I was perusing Vinted, as I have now had a habit of doing, and I was actually looking for something that I'm going to use, that I'm saving for a future video. So I picked up some bits and pieces for Guitar Hero, and I'll leave it there as a bit of a tease for what might come in the future. But from the same seller, they had these two steelbooks. So I'll just hold them both up for you, one at a time. So they've got the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, which I really like that kind of artwork. I like steelbooks for that kind of stuff. And a nice sort of Master Sword and Shield on the back there. Never opened, sealed, brand new. Obviously, they are not inclusive of the game. They're just the steelbooks, and I've got the same here because I love the artwork on the front of this as well, which is Super Mario 3D World. And then on the back, it's got the Bowser's Fury piece, which again, really, really cool. I did kind of mess up though because I bought them both thinking I owned the physical games of them, and I don't. In fact, I own Super Mario 3D World digitally. My little boy loves Super Mario 3D World, and I don't own Skyward Sword on the Switch at all. So that was a kind of mistake as well. They're quite heavy, and I do wonder if there's anything inside these when I come to eventually open them. But I mean, imagine if the games were in there, that'd be a hell of a bonus, wouldn't it? But I highly doubt it. But yeah, I don't own either of them, so at some point I'm going to need to pick those up physically. I'm not in any rush though, and Switch games hold their value, so picking these up now is not cheap. And then the last thing I'm going to show you handheld, but I am going to add some B-roll for a couple of other things I picked up, is something that I have added to my Metal Gear Solid collection. Now, you'll either think this is really cool, or you'll think, what in the world are you doing spending money on something like this? Now, it wasn't cheap. It's probably the most expensive thing in this lot, so you can do the maths there in terms of what the most expensive thing I've shown you so far was, and then this is more like double that cost. And that is, it's this. I'll just put it on screen first and I'll talk about it. It is a promotional video, VHS, from PSM2 when Metal Gear Solid 2 was first announced. And it's the video trailer. It's got other bits on it as well, so it's got Zone of the Enders, Silent Scope, Seven Blades and ISS Soccer. But the big sort of ticket item on this, and the reason I picked it up, was Metal Gear Solid. So first of all, I just love kind of the artwork, and it's nice to add to my growing random Metal Gear Solid collection. But also there's a reason I picked this up, and also you can see if I just step slightly to the side, you can see the big man himself in the background there, my life-size statue of Solid Snake. I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, but specifically Metal Gear Solid 2, because that is the game that really drew me into the franchise for two reasons. One, because the gameplay was just incredible. I remember, I don't think I've ever played a demo as many times as I played the demo that came with Zone of the Enders for Metal Gear Solid 2. And I also don't think I've ever been as excited about a game series or a game coming out as I was this, because when this trailer first landed, I remember watching it probably in a video game store, and I suspect it's probably at the same or similar time that I came across the statue, and they both became things that I was obsessed with. Like, I wanted that statue, I'd wanted it for 2 decades. If you haven't seen the video, I'll try and remember to link it somewhere on screen so you can go back and watch that. But the trailer as well, I watched it several times, and it was quite hard to do back in the day, because if it wasn't like you could just hop on YouTube and watch it. That it simply wasn't a thing. But I watched this trailer multiple times. Me and a friend of mine who both played through Metal Gear Solid 1 got so excited for this. So reliving that trailer was great fun. If I've been able to find it, or editor me has been able to find it, then it's been playing and you'll have seen it. If not, then go and seek it out and have a look. But yeah, I just had to add that to my collection. It does sell for a hell of a lot more than I paid for it. So I paid £50 for transparency for this, which is a lot for an old VHS. I get that, especially when it's only about 7 minutes long. But they sell for up to £100 and more. And this is in really good condition, so I don't know quite how I managed to get that bargain. It was a guy on Vinted again. You go on eBay, they sell for more. So really, really glad to add that to my collection. And then I'm just going to talk about, but I'll put some B-roll over the top to show you a couple of other things that I picked up. You may have seen these on YouTube or my Instagram if you're following me there. I went to TK Maxx while I was in the office doing my day job, and I went at lunchtime to have a little wander around. And I came across a couple of the Cable Guys phone and controller holders, which I've always really liked. And they do lots of different ones. If you've seen them before, they do video games, they do movies, they do all sorts of stuff. But I've always wanted to pick up some of the game ones. And for a long time, I wanted the Master Chief. And they had the Master Chief from Halo Infinite on sale for £15, half price from the usual kind of £30 mark they sell for. And they also had at the time Banjo-Kazooie. You'll be seeing them both on screen now. And I just thought they looked ace. And for £15 a pop, I had to pick them up. I did post on my socials about them and encourage people to go and pick them up. A few of you did go and find some good value ones yourselves. I think, Jamie, you mentioned you got a Mortal Kombat one, so well done for picking that up. And yeah, it seems like they've got an abundance of these Cable Guy phone holders in TK Maxx at the moment on sale. So if you're seeing this, they're probably still there. Go check them out. You might pick one up for yourself as well. So I was really thrilled to add those to the collection. Other than that, I've added a couple of modern games to the collection as well in the last couple of weeks that I've been playing. So I picked up Space Marines, Warhammer 40k, Space Marines 2, which I have to say, pretty good. Not completely hooked yet. I think it's got a very sort of Gears of War feel, but I'm not sort of as up on the Warhammer lore as I probably should be or want to be, so I don't really fully understand everything that's going on at the moment. A friend of mine is, and we're playing it together, and he's really enjoying it. So I'm sure that it'll start to click as some of that story starts to come together for me. But gameplay is very good, visuals are very impressive, you know, and you get that feeling of being overwhelmed by the enemy, which you kind of got back in the day on Gears. With the Locust, is very much there with the Tyranid army as you're gunning them down and sort of, you know, chainsawing them in half and stuff. So there's a lot of parity there if you liked Gears of War. I also picked up, for me and my other half, to play through Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which is the new Zelda game on Switch. Having a lot of fun with that. Very, very different to Space Marines, of course. But we're playing that together as well, and that's been a lot of fun. So a couple of more modern pickups, but just thought I'd call those out as well. So it's been quite a busy month this month. I'm not expecting to pick up as much next month. I'm going for some bigger hitters, hopefully, in October. So I'm going to the Nottingham Game Fair in a week or so's time. So in a couple of weeks' time, you'll see that vlog, and we'll see what I can find there. I'm hoping to pick up a couple of things off my sort of personal hunting list, things like Metal Gear Solid, the original on the NES in box. That's quite an expensive title to pick up. I'm hoping I might see something like that at that event. And I've also got a whole load of charity shop games that car boot sale games that I'll talk about. I haven't got hold of them yet because I've got a friend who's been picking them up for me, but I'll explain it all in the video when I get around to recording it. But I've got a whole host of games and a couple of consoles that have come from car boot sales that I want to talk about, and I'll cover in a future video. So that's it for this month. Like I said, quite a few games on the collection. A slight change in focus. I'm still picking up the games that I like and remember, but I'm not just sort of picking up any and all games on any console. I'm trying to be a little bit more selective as I move forward. So I'll share those top 20 lists in the future. If you're interested in any one particularly, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll focus on that one first, and we'll do a little video to cover those top 20s, and we can debate them in the comments, and you can tell me which games should be coming off that list, which ones should be replaced. That's kind of an idea I've got in my mind at the moment. But yes, I'll leave it there. I hope you found that interesting. Leave your comments down below if you think any of these games are particularly good, or if I've picked up any really bad ones that some of the ones I've never played. I appreciate Extermination probably is a really bad game. You don't need to tell me that. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below how I did this month with my pickups. If anything here struck a chord with you from a nostalgia point of view. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help. We're getting very close to 200 subscribers. It's still a way off the 500 I was hoping to achieve by the end of the year. But yeah, you know, if you can help me get there, I'd really appreciate it. Share the channel with your friends if you know anybody that's into this stuff. And if you do watch, and you're starting to watch these videos regularly, but you haven't yet subscribed, please do. Because I'm very keen to get to that 500 milestone. Ideally this year, but I suspect it'll probably be next year now before we get there. But thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for watching. If you've been watching for a while now, I really do appreciate your support. And we'll leave it here for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.